that energy is already permeating into the atmosphere. So beings that are on that frequency will be able to attract it to it, and they can use that, you see what I'm saying, for you to have a bad day. So you have to, this is where divine love comes in. You're constantly showing ashok. If you're constantly showing ashok and your energy is on that level, not saying that you're not going to have a bad day, but it's more control. Do you understand? Yeah, so that's what we teach in wu-sabat. Yeah, that you do have these things going on. You do have resonant frequency, and your brain. If you study your brain, or when you go to study the brain and how the brain electrical impulses work, etc., you know that there's a form of electricity that is being generated. That form of electricity is called different waves. You've got alpha wave, a beta wave, gamma waves, etc. Yeah? So these are different waves that are being emitted as a pulse, and you are an energy being. So that being that you're an energy being, it only takes split second, up to 6 seconds, the master said, for your aura to change. Now, what the master has also taught us is that there's elemental beings that are around us, as opposed to not just the ones that are within our bloodline as spiritual beings. We also have elemental beings who feed off that. Do you understand? And they can cause a situation to happen. Yeah, and that goes back to the Horus and Osiris, sorry, Set and Osiris, or some Set and Horus principle, because you're having a situation, just what I'm saying, which was the singular, the monad, that becomes a duad or dual that becomes a triad. So a situation is created because of you as the being. You see what I'm saying? So you can create your own situation. And because you're thinking on that frequency, those things manifest, especially if your mind is so focused on it that I don't want to work at this guy, man. I really don't want to I don't want to see him to that hope. Please, please, please. He's not me. I'm dealing with. And then boom. It's even damn. Not literally like that, but in your mind, you're thinking that. Yeah. So it's the constant generating of energy, love, unity, working to the best of your ways that you can with this person. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. It's not easy, but the more you do it, and hopefully their balance of negativity might shift. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, that polarity might shift. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. All right. I think there's a question on Clubhouse, or someone was on Clubhouse. I brought them up. I don't see them no more. Is anyone on Clubhouse that have a question? Okay, no questions on Clubhouse.
Zamal, someone just said, Yvonne, I think, said she does.
Oh, okay. Rahul Yvonne. That's
And you've also got Ed on stage.
So okay. Right, let's take your questions then. Yvonne, fire away, please.
Yeah, so I have a question about the eclipse. I noticed that they said, I don't know how true it is, they said they're bringing the National Guard and also some schools are closing. Is there something I don't know or should know?
Unfortunately, Yvonne, I have no idea about that. Does anyone in the audience know about that? Is this obviously this is America, right? With the eclipse and bringing in the National Guard and stuff.
Yeah, United States, yeah.
I honestly have no idea. I mean, we can always just kind of like guess what's going on, but we don't do the guessing part. We can base it on the what's it called? The other things that they've done, just what I'm saying, just to create order. We can always base those models on those models that's come before, because we know that America is a place where they're into control of the populace. You with me?
No,
but
nobody can hear anything. Oh no, somebody said they couldn't hear anything.
Oh, right, okay. Mic is up, volume is up. All right, okay. Right. Yeah, so So yeah, Yvonne, it's a concentrated effort. But like I said, if you base on past models and you're aware of what's going on in the world, then you know that it's more than likely it's some kind of population control. You with me? But for me to then start guessing and second guessing what they're doing, I have no idea. All right. We know there's different alternatives that they're using to control the masses. I hope that helps a little.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Right. Any other questions? Well, yeah, go ahead, Zama.
So, obviously,
Zama, you're breaking up.
may I be heard?
Yeah, you can be heard now.
I should say that this is something that we've actually put to the brothers have put to the master, because a lot of people are asking about that same question.
Oh, wait.
But it's obviously the solar eclipse that's happening on the 8th of it. And it's not due to happen in a long time, so.
Sorry, Zama, we keep losing you.
Hear me? Maybe
You can be heard now, yeah.
Yeah, I'll yield and I'll.
To her, yeah. But I think I got the gist of what you're saying. We're gonna put it to Parla Babianon, and then he'll be able to probably expand around that. You'll be able to expand on what's going on. But yeah, like I said, based on other models or other experiences that's been going on in the world, we know, for instance, the master explained regarding the certain eclipses that take place, whether lunar or solar eclipses. One of the major events that took place was that a being known as Nana, that the master explained, came, I think it was 2015, or it probably be a bit less than that. I can't remember the exact date, but he incarnated on this planet, was able to give certain instructions and then leave. So there's certain conjunctions and certain eclipses or certain solar events or lunar events that take place where either energies are shut down on a planet or certain beings will come. So one of those significances is Nana, which the master explained, came and gave certain instructions. One of them was to build a temple in Jerusalem. And his main point of contact was Donald Trump. So Trump was working with Nana in order to build the temple and get it completed. So that's the link there. There's actually a video that you can find. Once I find the actual update, there's a video you can find where you see an actual craft drop down on the temple and then leave. And that's what the master brought down. That was Nana visiting. So yeah, they do come and go at certain times. Right. Any further questions? Or should I jump to the book? Maybe it might spark something.
I have a comment.
Right. Ed, do you have a question?
If you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, my brother.
Okay, so this is my first time in here, so
okay. Welcome. Greetings to you. Welcome.
Appreciate it. I can tell you briefly how I got here is seeing some of the so I'm always a person that cares about truth, because I understand that you can build a foundation of something.
Okay.
Anything, the more that you layer that stuff on, the more fortified your foundation and whatever structure you're building on that is going to be.
Very true.
What I like from what I saw with I saw some of the OSM content.
Oh, fantastic.
And what I was seeing, what I was seeing is that the one thing that I liked more so than anything is that there was an actual response for questions.
Mm.
It wasn't, hey man, come by this, come do this. And I don't mind contributing and so on and so forth, but I need a path. I need to understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it.
you know, what the end game is. That's how I'm wired. When I'm watching the brothers responding to things, and then a lot of it seems to be grounded in science, which I know science is evidence. It's the evidence of what we can perceive in the physical, but it started on the spiritual side.
That's correct.
So, you know, so with me, you know, that's how I got here, going through churches and all that different stuff, and you know, and ended up in this where ended up here. But to speak on the ego piece, I understand that there's a difference between ego and pride, and I think a lot of people, well, I know many people confuse the two. I'm of the impression that pride suggests that there's something to be proud of, which means there was an action that precedes that pride on the other end of it, where ego can just kind of run wild. But there was a gentleman I spoke with years ago, and he was saying, well, there's a positive application of the ego too. I don't know if what that person was referring to was self-esteem,
right,
or confidence,
right.
And if that's something, can you please elaborate on that? But on the flip side of it, what it sounds like is we're around frequencies no different than back in the day when you had the TV. This might be before some people's time, but you had the two knobs on the TV. You had to turn one on top to one thing, and turn the one on the bottom to something different,
right,
in order to catch that frequency. So what you're saying is simply, if I'm catching it, is that these frequencies are very similar in that fashion, but it's about what you intentionally go after. And you have to tame some of these other things. Am I hearing this correctly?
That's right. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Because there's different aspects. You see what I'm saying? The mind is just not one. The mind is like a playing field. It's like an energy field. And depending on what you sow in the mind, there's also other aspects of it. There's a higher portion of your mind, your mental faculties, which we call sound right reasoning. And then there's other aspects, which is also known as six ether forces, or Ahoa. There's another name for like the lower forces. You with me? So there's one called Zupu and there's one called Nupu. And these are principles of nature and also advocates of certain, I'd say, lesser moral standards, as it were. So one of them is based on your desires. And if you're an avid studier of other philosophies like Buddha and Chinese philosophies, you know that the one thing Buddha said is desire leads to suffering. And one of the things that's born from, or the desire aspect, is that because your spiritual aspect of you, you have what is called spirit and you have what's called soul. One deals with this realm and pertains to feeding the body, clothing the body, basically like survival instincts. So the ego is actually linked to that part of you, that survival instinct. Pride, which you were alluding to, yes, that's also part of the fact that when you're proud of something, it's more of a higher force. You can be proud and you can be wrong, you see what I'm saying? And that's based on your desires. And you can be proud and have the right knowledge and the right information and the right attitude to apply the things that you need to do in order to make your society, your culture, who you are, your family, etc., succeed and be prosperous in the world. So you have that kind of element of pride. But the main thing is that, you know, there's a saying, isn't it? There's a pride before a fall. Yeah. And that is more alluding to the ego aspect as opposed to the pride aspect, which is dealing with the higher portions of your mind, which is the nine ether that we talk about or we teach about by way of the master teacher, Dr. Malachi. He teaches about that we as a people are a proud people, but we're proud in the sense that once we have our own culture, once we're practicing our true spiritual science, which is known as wu-sabat, it will liberate us so that we can be proud again of our culture, our foods, our music, everything about us. So when we're walking on the street, we don't feel any antagonism. We don't feel any, embarrassment or any of these other conditions that we've been, that's within us now, which is part of our DNA, that we can't show and prove that we are actually proud of who we are. You with me? Like, when I'm walking on the street and I'm wearing my crown, for instance, or like this cap that I'm wearing here, or wearing my African garments, or wearing my Sabian outfit, I should be proud of the fact that I'm liberated in my mental state, yeah, and that everyone that looks at me sees me as a culture that I'm proud of. But when you're walking and you're you know, or you're doing things aside from who your true essence is and who your true culture is, you're walking in somebody else's life or somebody else's mentality. So that's not really pride in that sense. You with me? It's more about how you may look to the other person, which is based on your ego, because the ego is a self-defeating aspect of your higher self. So I hope that makes sense in what I'm trying to explain.
Absolutely. So, and it connects with me because what I'm learning as I'm mature, that's coming with more age or time or whatever you can call it. I have the ability to, like a lot of people make things about money, and I'm always, I'm typically ruffling somebody's feathers, not intentionally.
Yeah.
But I have conversations with them like, look, man, okay, so you see what's going on in the city. You're doing what you can do. You surround yourself with a bunch of people that do the things that you like to do.
Yeah.
But a lot of times your purpose and your calling is not about your comfort.
Exactly. Exactly.
So when are you and I and others going to connect to do what we can do rather than just complaining about what's getting done, right?
Precisely.
This typically rubs people the wrong way. So what I'm learning about myself is that I can generate money. I've always been able to generate revenue legally. But what I look at is that who am I generating it for? And what is going to be the end goal? Because ultimately, some people are going and making all this revenue for other people, and it's not going to improve our condition with us understanding where we are.
Yeah.
So as I mature, and I do have the mindset, like when I talk to people about different, I say, look, there's different levels of behavior. Everybody messes up, everybody does whatever, but it's about the level of accountability and how you quicken that. Or do you justify what you do, right? So when I'm talking to people about a certain, and I'm not better than anybody, I just evolved to this point. So I'm trying to find my family. That's really what it comes down to. So I'm having these conversations and I'm like, man, a lot of these people are just not going to connect. So it almost makes you feel like you're alone because you desire to do the right things for the right reasons.
That's right.
When you're wrong, you don't.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Precisely.
Men, women, you know what I'm saying? Inside.
Yeah.
Like we should be going to the correction instead of trying to justify not. So
precisely.
With me listening to you all and watching videos and everything, this is what draws me to you all.
Okay.
And how I end up here because I want to be within my purpose no matter what I'm doing. This is the step in the right direction.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, and big up to again. We give good respect, excellent respect, and big up to OSM because we were able to work with them and to promote this spiritual science of ours, and the works of the brothers that are doing it is just showing itself more and more that we're reaching so many people, in the last couple of months, which is a very, very blessing. It's a good blessing on us and the store and everything that we're trying to promote. But one thing you said there about connecting with family, one thing we teach through wu-sabat is that you have a physical DNA family, and then you also have a spiritual family. Okay, so your DNA family, as you know, is your parents and your immediate surroundings and your family, etc. But the greater picture is that your spiritual family are those that are of the one same seed or spiritual energy or soul that we all originated from, the original source, as you mentioned, creation. So that creation or that aspect of creation, that source is what we're all connected to as Africans. You with me? So there's an African spiritual doctrine, which is teaching us our true science of that when we apply the unity to everything, we as a people, irregardless of what family you were born into, know that you have a spiritual connection to your ancestors. Your ancestors doesn't have to be your immediate family. It can be anybody that is of what we refer to as Nagaru race or the African race. That's your family, your spiritual family. And within that, when we start to work alongside with each other and connect with each other, recognizing that we're all one same being, that we're just being fragmented into different families and into different beliefs, etc. When we start to realize that one same family, we can work together. And that's what this wu-sabat is teaching, you know, by way of Dr. Malachi Zedjo. He's allowing us to experience the reality that we have. We are one being, you know, a supreme soul. And what's happened is that supreme soul, through the cycles of existence, have become individuals where they have acquired their own minds, okay, which has become my mind, his mind, their mind, and it's actually one mind which is connected to the mental. And within that mind, you also have a link to your relatives, your ancestors, your ones that have gone before you, your relatives that have transitioned. They're all linked into this mind and this mental. And our job is to get us to recognize that and that know that once we're connected to this mental, we are able to achieve greater heights, you know, and give up the pride and the ego and things like that that come with it. And that, as I said, the negative aspect of pride, not the positive aspect of being proud of who we are and walking on the streets and doing the things that we need to, just like other cultures do, you know. Chinese New Year, you see them, they've got their, you know, red envelopes, you've got their dragon, you know, Chinese dragon, they've got this, they've got that, you go to the Hindus, they've got their temples. We have to do the same and be proud of doing it and not be ashamed and have all these, you know, these little stigmas that we have, okay? So, you know, I hope that makes it clear. I think we're resonating on the same frequency here when I say that.
No, for sure. And just one more thing. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The other piece that gave credibility to me for Dr. Malachi was the linguistical piece. Okay. A lot of people talk about things from, they'll go back to, okay, this is Hebrew, this, that. But if everything that I'm observing is to be fact, I'm listening to them and there's multiple and tying them all together, which I haven't seen many people do.
Yes.
The value of it is that when you understand everything or overstand everything, then you can put the puzzle together in a different manner.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Because one thing wu-sabat teaches is that unity is all the puzzle pieces coming together, and disunity is the opposite. You know, so once you have you doing what you do in your strengths, me doing what I'm doing in my strengths, sister, brother, etc., doing what they're doing in their strengths, and pulling those resources together, that's how we're able to achieve and become prosperous and succeed. You know? So yeah. With that, is there any other questions? No? Any questions? I see you. Is that the first time? Yeah. Yeah? Welcome. Welcome, Rahul. Okay. Any questions on Zoom at all? The one shot. Yes. Right. There's a question. Right. There's a question that says from Regina Rahul. Regina. Greetings, family. I'm understanding that when you clear all of the diseases, example, ego, pride, jealousy, anger, etc., you can integrate the 9 ether energy frequencies with ease. That's exactly correct, Regina. That's exactly 100% on point. Because these are diseases. It's diseases of the mind. Okay? And those diseases of the mind fuel, even though they are mental diseases, they're also a form of energy. And energy is what we teach is emotional in the sense that energy moves. Yeah, that's what they call it, emotion. So when you look at all of these examples you've given, ego, pride, jealousy, anger, they're fueled off of something, which is emotion. And emotion is energy in motion. The thing is that once that energy is being set into motion, because it's a form of frequency and a form of vibration, if it's charged with the negative thought behind that emotion, unfortunately, there are also entities that are residing in these energy realms that are waiting and anticipating your change in your mood. And they are able to then actually ride or immerse themselves in your energy frequency. And the thing is that we've been taught about solid, liquid, and gas, and we've been taught that we're solid beings or beings of matter. But what we haven't been taught is that matter is also porous. Okay, so your mental state, your energy waves, the frequencies about you, you're vibrating, but you're not a solid matter, like as solid as, let's just say, a table or a wall or something of that nature. You're still a form of matter, but that matter is vibrating on a certain frequency. And you can go and research this on YouTube now. They call it cymatics. They teach you about that. Once you play a certain vibration, it changes shape and it can change form. So as you're going through these emotional changes in your being, these beings have the opportunity to enter into you. There's a movie that shows this, depicts this very well. It's called Fallen. Okay, it's a movie with an actor, Denzel Washington. Watch that movie. It shows you that you have entities who exist in a gaseous state, and they have the ability to diffuse themselves into your blood, and then they can take over your mental state. Okay, or you have beings that can actually ride on certain frequencies and then enter into the cells of your body, and they can stay in the cell of your body for, you know, few years, months, etc. You may live in a perfectly normal, happy life, but something might trigger it, and then those beings or entities will come awake. And it might even not be just a charged emotion of anger. It might be an emotion of, boy, I feel like eating burger today. Yeah, but that thought may not even be your thought. It may have been an entity or being that wants you to now eat those meats or smoke that cigarette or take that drug or go and party. You with me? Yeah, and so it's on different levels. And these beings, they know how to do this and they know how to influence the way we think. That's why nine ether is a state where you are such in a positive energy state that you're buffering these negative thoughts that are coming your way, or these negative entities, because they can't inhabit in a body that's of a higher frequency. Yeah, they have to find the same vibrational frequency in order for them to be able to get into your body or get into your mind. So we're always in a positive state, or we try our best to be in a positive state. When we have our chants, for instance, we have a 939 chant that we do. And it's very beneficial for you to be able to do those chants, because what the masters explain is that there's certain energies that actually you take in when you're chanting on those tones. We have certain tones that the masters taught us about, which is the F tone, the A tone, and the C tone. Okay, it's called FAC. These are musical notes, but the tones and the frequencies of them actually helps us as African beings to be able to link in with natural nature, our ancestors, and also charge up our bodies. Okay, so this is the reason why we do these chants 939, or do our best to make those chants so that it resonates in our being and it resonates also around the planet. Because we're changing, what we're doing is we're actually helping to change the frequency of the planet. That's what we're doing when we're doing these chants. Okay, so that's for that. I hope that helped to answer your question. And Van Rick, I see Van Rick there. I'm in a situation where I feel I'm going through a deep spiritual awakening. I'm finding it very difficult to deal with my new reality and negative energies around, especially at work. I basically feel like I'm losing my mind. Have you got any advice for me? We don't really like to give advice because we're not doctors, so there's a disclaimer. I'm going to give you a disclaimer. What we teach in wu-sabat is that if you do have these forces, as it were, or situations and things that are impacting on you in your life. We have these spiritual practices, and that's what I mentioned earlier, just before I finished my last answer, was that if you are applying the tones, certain tones and frequencies, and also, I don't know how much you know of wu-sabat or the doctrine, but reading these books, okay, they're also alive in the sense that the energy is alive. So reading these books actually help to grow new neurons and electrons and pathways in your brain. And also your mind and your mental state starts to change to a more positive, heightened state. So these are forms of what we call mental protection, okay? Psychic defense. And that psychic defense allows you to then move through life or move through your work environment, etc., without having the impact of what you're saying, okay? These negative energies. Because that psychic defense is based off of us studying, chanting, fasting, meditating. These are the requisites that is required within wu-sabat and within natural nature. So as long as you're doing these things, you have, so I'm just going to let somebody in. Okay, there you go. So, right, yeah, you have an easier opportunity to be at one with yourself in your mental state without feeling like you're going mad. All right. There's also other physical things you can do. Exercising. Yeah. If you don't exercise and you don't, you're not breathing correctly, for instance, these are all physical exercises that you can do, because one thing that you do is when you're breathing in, you're actually inhaling something called nashat, what we call energy. But the energy is also, there's an actual spiritual energy subatomic element that's connected, and it's referred to as the green light of healing energy. So breathing in this, what is known as saham and nashat energy, it purifies your being, it regrows new neurons, okay? And exercise and all of these other things produces certain endorphins, or certain molecules are released in your body. And all of that is part of the aspects of utilizing wu-sabat to its highest momentum. So I would suggest that, you know, just take it one day at a time. If you know, if you have been studying wu-sabat for a long time, then study what we teach, learn the practices, learn the rituals. You know, we teach about our ancestors as well, and how you can make a link with those ones that are positive, like your grandmother, your uncles, whoever was positive in your life, or show some kind of influence in your life, a positive influence. You can then connect with them on that kind of level as well. So there's many different ways to help your sanity. Okay, I hope that helps. All right. Hi, I'm enjoying the class. Can you tell me what all of a sudden that this Black Jesus is all about, please? It's got our people in sort of mad frenzy. Sorry, when you say Black Jesus is all about, does anyone knows? Anyone know about the Black Jesus is going on in frenzy? Okay, hold on. I got one of the brothers in the class.
I think they might be referring to the picture of Panda Babiano.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then all right. He's a form of Messiah. Are you gonna answer?
There's a movie come out. That's why.
Oh, there's a movie as well. All right. Okay. I wasn't aware of that. Okay. So there's part of Babianon which is alluding to that, because when the master teacher originally released the picture of the lamb, it's an old picture of him as the lamb. He referred to himself as the lamb. A lamb is barely symbolic of a humble being. Okay, not that he is the Messiah, but he's a type of Messiah figure, in the sense that what Messiah does is raises their people and helps their people to realize their true potential, and also to liberate them and teach them about who they truly are. So as a type of Messiah, that's what Partner Babiano is. Now, the Black Jesus movie that's coming out, I had no idea about. So I don't know if you could elaborate more on why it's, what that is going on there. No idea. Does anyone know? Black Jesus? Okay.
Yeah, they may be talking about the picture that Putin has been showing.
Oh, so, okay. Putin has been showing the Black Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Oh, maybe. I say again. I don't want to guess. I don't want to guess. I might have to read more into that. But we know the true. We know the true science. We know that there is a fake Messiah, and then there's a real Messiah. Yeah, we've always taught that throughout all the doctrines that the master teacher has taken us through. We've always taught that there's a real Messiah, and his galactical name is Sananda. Okay, Sananda is the galactical name of the real Messiah. And we have to take it to that level because the day and time we're living in, there are beings that are intergalactical beings that come back and forth to this planet. We refer to them as extraterrestrials, but essentially, they're intergalactical beings. So one of the intergalactical beings that incarnated on this planet, okay, was known as Yeshua. All right, Yeshua. And then you have the fake Messiah, which has been pushed by Europeans or the rest of the world, as it were, because they wanted to obviously put us into a spell, the gaseous spell. Okay, we can go into the phonetics of that when you're saying, because the two cultures that were born from this, okay, you have the Hebraic culture, you have Jah, and then you have in the Roman culture, you have Zeus, okay? These are two elements of spirit forces or spirit gases. So when those two cultures embraced or merged together, they created a being or a fictional character known as Jesus. So if you break it down, you look at the word and you look at sound, listen to the word phonetically, you're saying Jah and Zeus. Okay, those are the two cultures, Jah, Zeus. So I say it quickly, Jah, Zeus, Jah, Zeus, Jah, Zeus, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Okay, so you got two characters, and these are spiritual forces that was part of the push to help enslave our minds to the reality of the real Messiah. So yes, there was a real Messiah, but his name was Yeshua. He was born of a mother. His birth parents were Yahusef or Joseph, as they were, and also Miriam. Okay, that's the real Messiah. And he was of dark skin hue with woolly hair, which even though he was of that, he was of a Dravidian stock, being that the whole story behind him would have to go into, because it's essentially he incarnated to lead a particular tribe of people on this planet who were known as the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Okay, so that was his job. It wasn't the whole world. He said, think not I've come, but onto the lost house. That's found in the book of Matthew 15:24, right? So he actually says in the book of Matthew, think that I've not come, but onto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So he wasn't talking about the whole world when he referred to this. But as I said, there are other cultures or other races on the planet who took over the true story and then they covered it with their own fictitious characters. So your fictitious characters became the Jesus that they pushed, because under their powers or under their belief system is based on the ghost worship. Okay, when I say ghost worship, I'm talking about spiritual forces, because a ghost is a form of spirit. And there's different types of spirits. You got higher forms of spirit energy, and you have lower forms of spirit energy. And the beings that were pushing this were of a particular culture known as the Caucasian race. So the Caucasian race pushed their images and they pushed their belief systems onto the darker hued people and took over the teachings of what the Messiah, the real Messiah, came to teach. Okay, so that's the Hebraic teachings of that. But that being known as Yeshua was linked into Egypt, okay, known as Sananda or Sanan Re. Sanan Reye. That was two of his names. Okay, his galactical name was Sananda, and his Egyptian name was Sanan Reye. Okay, so he studied, that's the one that studied in ancient Egypt and then left Egypt and then was schooled in the mysticisms of Egypt and the teachings and the culture and came back and was telling those people that had taken over the true culture of the Israelites, okay, that you are devils, you are not of, you're in the synagogues of Satan, etc. And then you had the fake Messiah, which they pushed by way of Paul. Paul then introduced this character, okay, where he said that he was going to Damascus, on the road to Damascus, and then he fell off a horse. He saw a light, this lights, and then he didn't hear anything. He heard from a bush that somebody was speaking to him, and he said, Paul, Paul, or Saul at the time, actually, because his name wasn't Paul at the time. His name was Saul. I'm just kind of like just giving you verbatim, that's, you know, paraphrasing. That why are you persecuting me? I am this Lord. But all the time, Paul was actually making all of these things up. So he created your fictional Jesus character. And that's why when you look at the Roman culture or the Roman Catholics, because if you think about it, why would a religion be named after a people that crucified the Messiah and call it Roman Catholic? And that's what people follow. Yeah. And then from that, the name of their Pope is called Papal or Pope Paul. Yeah, Paul, Papal is the same. So this is dealing with actual ghost spirit forces created by your Caucasian race. And that's how they were able to then infiltrate into the true cultures or true societies that existed and then put their images and their belief systems. And then from that subjugated the rest of the world into believing that this Messiah was, you know, I mean, all of us grew up, I grew up with my grandmother having an image of a blonde hair, blue-eyed being on the wall. You know, I read Bible books and all I could see was European images of Adam and Eve in the garden with a snake wrapped around a tree. Yeah, anyone who grew up in my age group knows about these stories, you know, and then obviously as, you know, our children are growing up now, they begin to see that this story doesn't really cut fine, you know. But yeah, that's essentially the whole thing regarding the image of the Messiah or Jesus as they call him, but it's really Yeshua. So in the catacombs of Rome, they have the Black Messiah and the Black Madonna. That's what they call it, the Black Madonna. Yeah, and they actually worship, the Pope actually pays homage to the Black Madonna. In the catacombs of Russia, they also, oh, there's a brother here. So yeah, bring it. Yeah, we'll break it down. Yeah, I won't go too much into it. I'm sure there's other questions, and I wanna dwell on it too much. But iron sharpens iron, so okay, so right, so you've got from one of the books written again by author by Parna Babianon. It's entitled "Is It Black Man's Christianity or White Man's Christianity?" Is it black man's Christianity versus white man's Christianity? All right, and in page 196, it goes, is it from 196, yeah? Just read from the top. The martyrdom of Stephen, Acts chapter 7, verse 59. Some of the disciples fled to Antioch, trying to escape the persecution. There they started preaching the teachings of the real Yeshua, Isa, Jesus. The Black Madonna is found in Rome today. Paul still bowed down to a Black Madonna image of Jesus and Mary. Is that it? That part? Yeah. So yeah. So you know that's from here. But I mean, this book goes into some detail about the real Messiah and the fake Messiah. Okay. So seek it out in nashat.co.uk. All right, or come to the store and support the store as well. Okay. Yeah. So he was showing images.
Build to what you've already broken down.
Yes, please. With all due, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you took it to where I hope I could be heard because my line's a little bit bad. You took it to where they're getting it from, which is ancient Egypt. And what I wanted to add was that the real being that they're talking about is Tut Ankh Amun, or really Amun. And Tut Ankh Amun actually means that in the image of Amun, because that is really who they're getting their stories from. Of course, we can go into why Amun, because Amun is used in all the religious world's prayers. At the end of their prayer, they say Amen, Amin in Islam, and Omein in Judaism. So this is going back to that being Amun. I just wanted to tie that little piece in. I can obviously elaborate if people have questions, but that is really about Amun.
I guess where my slight confusion is, we're saying that there was a Messiah, or Black Jesus, so to speak, who came from Joseph and quote unquote Mary. How does that relate to the story of Horus? Because we're saying that that Jesus, quote unquote Jesus, comes, or the story of Jesus comes from the story of Horus.
Okay, there is such a layered, multi-layered story. It's unbelievable. Yeah, so you have your Virgin Mary story, which is the copy of Isis, when she conceived without the aid of a man, being that Osiris was dead. You see what I'm saying? So they used a science, which is now being used today, known as in vitro fertilization. Yeah? So that science existed many thousands of years ago. So the true essence of the story is coming from different aspects of our culture. So you have the Amun story, or Tut Ankh Amun, which means the living image of Amun, all right? And he was the child with the gold or rays like the sun, which represented the gold mask. So the rays of the sun, if you look behind Jesus, he has the rays of the sun. So they've taken the element of that and transposed it onto this fictional character. Then you have Jesus, the lamb. Horus was known as the lamb. You see what I'm saying? Because in the stories of Horus, he was the sacrificial lamb. You see what I'm saying? Like his father. So you have aspects of stories of our culture that has been transposed onto this fictional character known as Jesus. So that's why the story is so confusing, because you have many different layers of it, like a cake. Yeah, and then they made us eat the cake. And most of us are enjoying it thoroughly. So that's what's happened. So, you have the Horus horizon. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. When he goes through the different cyclical events. So he died and then went underground. That's the story that they told you when Jesus died for 3 days and 3 nights. Then he came through the underworld. That's another story of ours. And then came and rose on the 3rd day and then cycled around. And at the zenith, which is Atun. So you have, again, our story. You have Anun, the darkness. You got Atun, the birth. You have Atun, the zenith, or the highest point. That's when at the age of 33. And then he declined, he died. You see what I'm saying? So there's different layers that they've applied to this being. Yeah, so that's where the confusion is. So Yeshua was of the seed of the female. That's Mary. Mary was a Levite. You with me? And the Levites were the ones that had the seed by going all the way back to these extraterrestrial beings that we refer to as Anunnaki. So by way of the Anunnaki, they supplanted their seed onto this world. And what they did was they guided their seed all the way into Egypt, and to the point where they mixed in with the ancient Africans there. So what then took place is that, just like how we live in the West now, we've adopted all their cultures, their way of life, etc. So most of us believe we're British. You see what I'm saying? No, I ain't African, I'm British. Yeah, that's what you hear from some people. So they believe that they're that. So the Phoenician Canaanites and the Sumerians who migrated into ancient Egypt brought their cultures with them. And they kind of like amalgamated and mixed their cultures together. So when they were leaving, this is what you hear about the Exodus. You see what I'm saying? And this Exodus took place because there was a battle that was happening where Thutmose, that's the story again of Moses. You see, the true person was Thutmose, who removed the Hyksos from Egypt and run them out into the burning sands. And that's your story of Moses, who was of the Hyksos dynasty. You see what I'm saying? So there's layers, and the confusion is because of the layers, and they've done that intentionally because they knew that one day there was a being that was going to come and start to dissect and give you the true stories. So by the time he came, you'd be so confused that what's he talking about? No, Moses. No, there's a true person called Moses. All right, prove to me Moses existed. Prove to me Abraham existed. Prove to me any of these beings that are in the Bible existed. They can't. But they said that Isis, Horus, and Osiris were fictional characters, but yet they found the tomb of Osiris. Hold on, tomb of Osiris. They found DNA, and now if you check it out, you look at Tutankhamun. He was born of his mother and father. What's her name? His mother was different. She was actually of a divine lineage, but his father was Tutankhamun. So if you can find Akhenaten, who has a DNA bloodline, and trust me, they've done tests on Tutankhamun. Do you know what I mean? Even Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop has done tests on Ramesses. So we know that they're African. So if that's the case, then some of that DNA must go back to Osiris, Horus, because this is the dynasty. So they must have existed. But we can't prove Sarah, Abraham, Rebecca, all of these big characters existed, and unless you go into the Egyptian stories, then you start to see that there's similarities in certain stories. So that's what they've done.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
And what are your thoughts on the, I guess, belief that Christianity came from Ethiopia? Because from what I understand, it's still a European concept that was brought into Ethiopia that we kind of adopted as.
No.
Or,
like I said, there was, you see, okay, the Israelites, okay, by way of Isaac, is it Isaac? Isaac, Jacob? Yeah, Jacob was known as Israel, right? So, is that correct? I can't remember that. It's been a while. Yeah, Jacob, yeah, so he was known as Israel. So these Israelites are the descendants of the children of Jacob, right? We know that Jacob and Esau were born from who? Isaac. Isaac was the child of Abraham. So we can trace back the lineage because even in your book of Luke and the book of Genesis, they give you a lineage. You see what I'm saying? All the way back to Adam. So what the Masters explained to us is that you have the African race, the ancient Egyptians who resided in these different areas, okay? Then you had also anthropological means. You have like the Amorites, okay, and other cultures that were cavemen-like. Let's just put it that way. And the cavemen, what you know as the Neanderthals and the Cro-Magnons and stuff like that, that's the anthropological names for them. But those societies or those beings that resided in certain European areas, what they did was they migrated down, okay? And they were ravaging and killing the original people and mixing in with them. So that gave birth to Phoenicians, the Phoenician Canaanites. Okay, so you had one stock who were Phoenicians that were dark skinned, woolly hair, sometimes some of them with straight hair because they're mixed in with the Hindus, okay, in the Mesopotamian area. Now, the Adamites were a stock that was created outside of that. They were created to be laborers. Do you understand? And they were given a particular guidance to live by. Within the Adamite seed, they gave them a set of instructions and a set of rules and things to abide by. But the Adamites ended up mixing in with the Phoenician Canaanites. Yeah, by way of Abraham and all these others, they mixed in. So it got mixed to the point where the extraterrestrial that created them had to step in every so often to get them back on track. Okay? And this is what we're coming up against with where the confusion with Israel and who these dark-skinned people were and who Abraham descended from and who Jesus descended from, etc. Because he actually descended from Abraham's stock, who were of the Adamite race. Does that make sense? Yeah, but they were only created 6,000 years ago. And the other beings that were on the planet were created thousands, or evoluted or were created thousands of years before them. And Africans have been here with the planet. We grew with the planet. So you have different stages of time, but the last one that was created 49,000 years ago, down to the last 6,000 years, which were the Adamite race. Yeah, and that's where your stories of your biblical stories are coming from. Is the Adamite seed. Okay, but they were given a certain set of instructions. The Torah was one of them. Then you had Tammuz and all these other extraterrestrials or beings that were known as the Anunnaki were also given them certain set of instructions. Does that make sense? Yeah.
You look at how Christianity is like different from the average.
That's right. Yeah. So the birth of all of that became Coptic. You see what I'm saying? It came from ancient Egypt. They migrated out, and then it gave birth to the Coptic, which means the center. Yeah, and that's where the whole thing then branched out from there. Because if you know about Ethiopia, it's been tried to be conquered many times by the British, by the Italians, by the Spanish, etc. And they never could conquer it. Because they were looking for the Ark of the Covenant. That's one of the things they were looking for, which was hidden, do you know what I mean? Or hidden away. So yeah, but it's the center of Christianity was but going all the way back to the ancient Egyptian religions or teachings, and then it just got watered down. Yeah. Any other questions online? Okay, I am asking about any insight into the April 8th eclipse or info regarding where we currently are in the awakening process collectively. Okay, let me read that. Any insight into the April 8th eclipse? Well, I don't really know much about that, or that the master hasn't revealed anything yet, but as the brother Seken Sekan said, he'll be able to send it off to the master. I'm pretty sure, once he gets wind of it, he'll be able to explain it and expand. Hopefully, he'll be able to expand on it for us. Info regarding where we currently are in. Sorry, right. In the let me stretch it out. There you go. Better. All right. In the awakening process collectively. I guess what you mean, you say the awakening process collectively, that's is referred to as a paradigm shift. Okay, the paradigm shift is that there are going to be people who are going to wake up consciously and realize the day and time we're living in and make mental and physical adjustments to their life and to the way they think and the way they see things and what outcome and result they want. So there are going to be people, but it's called a paradigm shift. So this actual shift started to take place from 1962, 67, when the master teacher, Partner Babjanon, incarnated. Okay, so they knew about his coming. So it's not a thing that they didn't know about. If you go and research a particular astronomer, it's in the Man from Planet Risk book, actually, talks about the astronomer. What's his name again? Giancarlo something or other. He was actually watching a craft known as the Bennett. Yeah, they referred to the comet as the Bennett comet. So they knew about the, oh yeah, there you go. And the brother Sakam is put on here. Find out, track your spiritual conscious journey. That will definitely help. Yeah, so the Bennett comet was traced and tracked, and the conscious awakening on a collective level is part of that process. Also, you have other beings that come for their own. You see, the master teacher has been sent to his own, as in the sense of the Nagaru or African race, okay? And those within the African race who resonate with what he's teaching, it's in your DNA, it's already encoded in your DNA. That's what it's always taught, that you have a genetic agreement with your ancestors. So from 1970 onwards, that genetic encoding has been activated. And it's been activated when you hear his voice, or when you read one of the books, or you were doing something that, or one of your ancestors triggered you off inside your DNA. Yeah, so these are aspects of us and things that can happen to us, part of the spiritual consciousness awakening. Now, it's not on an individual basis. When the spiritual consciousness starts to take place, you're supposed to seek those who are of the same resonant frequency as you and band together as a collective and then work together to achieve that spiritual state, because our ancestors are not seeking individuality. They're seeking a collective, a togetherness, a unity. And that's what we are practicing in wu-sabat, is that once we are able to unify together and be able to call on the forces of nature, that's when our ancestors will work for us. Well, they're working for us now, they work through us now. However, it will get stronger and magnified the more of us are coming together and unifying together. So every race has been sent a warner. Our warner is Parnabab Yanun. Our warner is here to raise us up spiritually and mentally so that we can make the dimensional shift. And that's why all these, if you were in the class earlier, I was explaining about the FAC, the tones, the language that we're speaking. Okay, all of these are part of the consciousness process. All right, it's not just about sitting in a corner and going and that's going to make you a spiritual being. Yeah, it's part of the spirituality. It also works. You have to work. Yeah, and that's part of Ashok. Ashok is not a idle thing. Ashok is an energy that works. So we being together, showing Ashok love, unity, and strength, and building from the inside out. That's Ashok. So it's an action word, you know, and we have to learn to practice that each day, day in and day out as a people. So that is your consciousness awakening. Any questions on that at all? Anything? You have a question? No questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Who were the
if you put the mic closer to you.
Who were the original humans who were here on this earth, and how have they evolved? Do they exist now?
Okay, that's a very good question. Right, so the original humans on this planet are known as the Sans people of Botswana, Kalahari Desert, who were seeded here. Yeah, so the remnants of them, you can see that by all the what they call genetic traits, okay, or phenotypes. A phenotype is essentially like your eyes, your nose, the color of your eyes. These are the phenotypes, right? So the Sans people have been DNA have been categorized. It's actually been checked out and everything by scientists, etc. So they affirm that the Sans people or Bushmen are the original people on this planet. Now, what's happened is that we have evoluted. Okay, so we're known as, we were originally called the Pataites. Yeah, Patah. And these Pataites, when they evoluted from the waters, they had certain genetic traits or genetic factors in them. One of them, you can research this, is called a HAR1 gene. Okay, the HAR1 is the human accelerated region. And that accelerated region allowed them to be able to adapt to any environment. That's one of the things about the HAR1 gene. So the adaptation was that some of us ended up living in forests and mangroves. Some of us ended up living in the deserts. Some of us ended up living in arid places like land and started to farm. So those were the original beings that were in the waters originally as what you can refer to as mermen or what's the word from sirens. There's like in mythology, they call them mermaids, mermen, or sirens. Okay, but that mythology is actually a fact that we existed not in this state that you see us. We are known as evolutionary Tarites. The original Tarites were aquatic creatures, yeah, of reptilian nature, meaning that the traits that they had gills, which now we call tonsils, yeah. They had webs between their feet, hands and feet, okay. They had breathing apparatus known as the spleen and the appendix, okay, which acted as a buoyancy system in the water. Because most doctors, if you were to go to ask them, or scientists, they'll say they don't know what the spleen and the appendix is for, yeah, or the gallbladder. They don't actually know what it actually does. Do you know what I mean? It's because initially it used to act as a buoyancy in the water when we used to swim in the water. We also had what we use our third eye for, or what they call the third eye, was echolocation. So we transmitted frequency through the water and to be able to communicate mind to mind. So we were telepathic. We also had the ability to actually grow limbs. Like if you go research about the salamander and other creatures who are amphibious or reptilian, they're able to grow their arms or legs or tails back. So we had these in our DNA. Still there, it's dormant, it's not gone. It's just that we don't know how to activate them yet. So one of the things that Master Teacher Parnababi is teaching is that these evolutionary beings are us, our ancestors are, we got all their traits, but it's up to us to able to activate them again. So he's teaching us how to be able to activate our higher powers, our abilities. When somebody keloids, for instance, that's the body's attempt to grow back a limb, but it's just that they call it keloiding. It's because the brain and the mind has focused so much on that area, okay, using the blood and the matter in that area to try and grow something, but it just couldn't because we don't have the ability. We've forgotten the science. So yes, that's the original beings that were on the planet, and then eventually we shed our scales, but you can still see, if you look up close, you can still see scales on your hands, you can see webs. Yeah, when you're thirsty, yeah, or your body is dry, it gets ashy. You know what I'm saying? You have to lubricate it with some kind of oil or liquid. So all these are the different traits that we still have, that makes us our original beings. Okay.
Zamal, you have a question on Zoom in the text, in the chat. It says, can you speak of the different interpretations of the terms understanding, understanding, and overstanding, please?
All right. I hear you. Okay. I will go a question in the store, and then I'll go to the question in the chat. Go ahead, my brother.
Are those guys, were they called Homo sapiens, or is it after the Anunnaki came and they created their own people called Homo sapiens?
That's fine. Homo sapien was like your Adam. That's your Adamites. Those would be your Homo sapiens. We'll get to that. Okay. So the Sans people were what is known as Homo habilis, and I think Homo naledi, right? I keep forgetting those two. So Homo habilis and Homo naledi. And these are your anthropological names for them. Okay. Within that span of those names, those different, what's the word I'm looking for? Subgroups. Yeah. So you have Australopithecus, you have this, you have all the different subgroups under the Homo habilis and the Homo naledi. All right. But that was your original beings that evoluted from the water. Now, Further down the line, you also then gave birth to the Dravidians, who anthropologically they're called Homo florensis. Okay, that's their anthropological name. And then you go into the Europeans, you have the Cro-Magnon and you have the Neanderthal. You understand? So these are periods of times, we, as I said, initially grew with the planet. Yeah, so we were seeded here by way of the Sirius star system. Yeah, that's our origin, the Sirius star system. The seeds of the eggs was placed in capsules, okay, certain capsules, which was inserted into the dolphin, and the dolphin then, by way of gestation, like a seahorse, yeah, protected those eggs until we were strong enough to actually swim in the water, and they protected us, okay, and eventually evoluted onto land. So that's our birth origin. Millions of years later, okay, you're talking millions of years after the Pleistocene period and this and the Ice Age and all of these things, we've been in and out of the water. And then certain extraterrestrials, what you have to understand is when a scientist is doing an experiment, right, they won't necessarily start from scratch. They would take something that's already there. So extraterrestrials, what they were doing is they were dipping into the samples of the Sun's people or the original people on the planet, taking DNA cells and then recombining their DNA cells into it to breed their own seed, their own race. So as from time to time, certain extraterrestrials will come and intercept, go into the DNA, the mitochondria, because that's the powerhouse of the cell, okay? Encircle it with a bacteria that will grow, you see what I'm saying, into their own species. The Sun's people started to be eaten by certain extraterrestrials. We were food for some beings. Yeah, that's the reality. This is like, well, we always say this: chicken is food to other, us. So we were food to other beings. So fast forward now to 50,000 years ago, a being came known as Enki. That's your Anunnaki story, okay? They came to this planet along with other extraterrestrials known as the beings from Aldebaran, the beings from Pleiades, the beings from, and other places mentioned in your Bible story. And they were able to fashion their own using the technology that was given to them. And that's where your Adam story came from, and the birth of Homo sapien. Does that make sense? Because the word Homo sapien means wise serpent, come from the word sapir, yeah, which means serpent. So this wise serpent, Adam and Eve were originally in a reptilian state, yeah, and eventually became human as you know them, because what the master is explaining is that the stories, again, overlaid stories. You have the Egyptian stories of the ancient Ogdoads, okay, that you find in Egypt, mention about them being water beings. And then you have the story of the Adamites. And then the stories, again, have been merged. So again, when we start talking about our story, it sounds like the Adamite story. You see what I'm saying? But it's actually your Adam story, we predate all of those things. And ours is not a story, it's actually a factology. It's not a fact, it's a fact, it's not a story as such, okay? So that is the origin. So the Anunnaki came, they binded their image onto the seed of the two tribes that were originally on the planet now that had formed empires and societies. One of them was known as the Watusis, and the other were known as the Pataites, okay? So from the Watusis, that gave birth to a being known as Zakar, or Cadman. And then from the Pataites, it gave birth to a child called Eve, Nekibu, all right? And from those two, they were separated initially, moved to certain parts of the planet, and then experiments was done on them to see how they would interbreed, etc., etc. Now, what people tend to miss out when they're reading the Bible story, it doesn't say, let me make man, and that's it. It says, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them, so it's a plural. The Adam's story is an Adamite story, plurality. So these Adamites were told to then become the dominion over the planet, or that portion of the planet known as Mesopotamia. Okay, so that was the seed that was created by the Anunnaki. All right, and then we were living in Africa, still doing our thing, but every so often, extraterrestrials will still be, abducting us, yeah, for food, unfortunately. Okay, so yeah, I hope that answers your question. Right. Can you speak of the different interpretations of the terms understanding, understanding, and overstanding? Right. So when you have understanding, okay, as utilizing if you're not utilizing your mental faculties, and somebody gives you a story that you believe in, you are understanding, because you're accepting something without a thorough grasp of the facts. Okay, so you're under the information, you're standing under the information. All right, when you're understanding, it's when you have your intuitive self that gives you the answers without the aid of anyone around you. Like, for instance, like many people think, oh yeah, I think Jesus was really a black person, and I think, just using it as an example, and I think he came from Africa, and think that's your intuition, it's kicking in, that's connected to your soul. Then something confirms it, because then you start to read and it's like, I knew it all this time, I knew that was true, I knew that Jesus was actually African or black or whatever the case may be. Just what I'm saying, that's your inner standing. So you have an inner standing, you're standing in your inner reality of who or what certain things are to you. All right. And like for instance, certain foods that you might eat, or certain things that you might do, or certain things that you think the European man has given you and it doesn't sound correct. All right. That's your inner standing. And then when it gets confirmed, now you have an overstanding. Yeah, you have an overstanding now, where you're now no longer under the information. You're now over the information. You have a thorough grasp of it, because now you're utilizing your higher mental faculties. So that's where wu-sabat comes in. Wu-sabat teaches you sound, right reasoning. Okay, and sound, right reasoning is basically using your higher mental faculties, which is 9 ether. So 9 ether is the reasoning, is the highest mental processing that you can do, okay, as a being, where you're no longer stuck under information, you're above the information. You can now grasp it, and like, hopefully, potentially, all of you in here could be standing where I am, or standing somewhere with your friends and breaking things down, because you now have an overstanding. You see what I'm saying? You have an inner standing. You no longer have an understanding of it. You're not confused. Yeah? And that's what inner standing, overstanding, and understanding brings to. I mean, there's more to it than that, but I hope you grasp what I'm trying to explain. Okay? All right, so there's another question. Does any of your teachings include the terms monad and or solar logos? I don't know the definition of either, just wondering. Well, obviously, monad, without going into the etymology, is dealing with one, and then you have a duad, and then you have a triad. So you're dealing with the science of numbers, okay? So from a single point of singularity, you then have something that generates from that single point. And then, as the master explained, you have from, let's just say, atoms. From atoms, you then have hydrogen, okay? That would become a monad, because it's dealing with one element, okay? One hydrogen atom with one electron rotating around it. Then you have helium, okay? Helium has 2 electrons and 2 atoms, protons and neutrons, that's within it. So you come from a monad to a duad, And then from there, everything starts to generate outwards from itself to produce your different elemental forces that we know of, okay? That's the science of monad, duad, triad, etc. You can also look at it as you being a being that's as a single person, but yet you meet your mate, and then your mate, you produce a child, and that becomes your triad, that becomes your trinity. So you can look at different aspects of numerology, how it plays out. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. If there's any confusion, please ask. Anyone here not confused? Anyone confused? I don't want to confuse anybody. Okay, that's not what here.
So I just wanted to add a little bit to your build. Yeah, the solar logos is ultimately dealing with the sun, and we know in ancient times that the sun is the giver of life, the sustainer of life, which ties into Re or Reye, which is the triad or the order of Amun, Atun, and Atum. So yeah, it's just like Europeans just trying to come up with different terms, but ultimately it's our ancient Egypt teachings of Reye.
Tota. Yeah, I love it when we build together. It's good. It's good stuff. Because I always trigger something afterwards. Okay, any other questions? Don't feel shy. This is why we are here. You're here because you want to learn. You want to learn about your existence. You want to learn about who you are. You want to learn about why this is this and why this is that. And why, from our youth to our ancestors or to our elders, and why our elders are not being looked after, and all of it. It's all part of it. Ask any question, and we're able to explain to you why certain things are happening in our society, in our culture. Yes, my brother.
What was Jesus' real name? Do you have a name? They call him Jesus, but what's his real name?
Yeah, sure. I mentioned it earlier, Sanan Re or Sananda.
Practical name.
Sananda was his Latin name.
On the planet Earth. Did you have a name?
Did he have a name?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar unless you have the knowledge of that.
No, I'm saying the reason I'm asking that because on the part of the old tapes,
okay,
school tapes, and he's saying that in the actual confirmation of it, he said well, Jesus be a savior.
Right, okay.
So in order to get that title, he
right, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah, it's like Noah's name. Yeah. How did he get a name after an event?
Yeah.
Right.
So what was his name?
I honestly can't remember. I'm pretty sure he's broken it down, but his real name would have been Sanan Re.
Okay.
Yeah, Sanan Re.
So not Jesus.
Not Yeshua, no. Because the word Yeshua means savior. So if he was a savior, who is he saving? And we know that he came to save a particular stock or tribe of people known as the Israelite tribe.
So the whole world?
Not the whole world, no. Yeah. So that's a misconception that has been pushed by the European world for a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to add to that.
Yeah.
I think it's in Matthew where it says that they named him Emmanuel, which they translate as God is with us.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
But we know that the word not Emmanuel, it was Imam, Iman, El, or Iman means
that faith, isn't it? Faith in El? Yeah.
In El.
Right, yeah.
That's his name, yeah.
Emmanuel. Okay, Tauta for that. Any other questions? It's a question answer class. Wu-sabat, yeah. Okay, can we have the mic to the sister, please?
I just wanted to know where Tammuz comes from.
Okay.
Is that another name for you?
Right. This is the science now. So Tammuz, okay, by way of one of the Anunnaki, put his DNA utilizing the cryogenics, right? Let's step back a bit. The whole religious teachings of the birth of Christianity deals with a lot of belief and clouded nursery rhyme type of stories. You with me? Like baby stories. The reality is that there was a science going on, all right? a science going on with beings that are very far advanced than us. We call them, in the religious world, angels, okay? In the science world, they call them extraterrestrials. What they really are beings that are from other galaxies that have been coming back and forth to this planet for a very long time. One of the beings that has been coming to this planet for a very long time, or intergalactically traveling, is a being known as Tammuz, okay? And his parents, if you want lack of a better word, the Enlil, Enki, etc. These are names that you're going to probably hear when you go online on YouTube. You know, there are people talking about Anunnaki and Enki and Enlil, even if you know those names or not. But essentially, Tammuz was, if I remember, the son of Ishtar and Dumuzi. Okay, so you getting your Easter story as well in there. Okay, and Ishtar, but being that Tammuz was born, I'll go to the Black Book in a minute and I'll read a bit from there. But Tammuz essentially used his DNA. He was able to cryogenically put it into the being that he sent on his behalf, which was Nusku. Okay, Nusku and Anunnaki came as a well-made man, as a Gabriel. Because what we're doing is we're actually given the titles. Man's giving them these titles. That's not what their names are. It's man who's giving them these titles, like Israel and this and that. Their names are Nusku, Tammuz, etc. Okay, the word Tammuz you can find in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8, verse 14. You can actually see his name and where it says, the women were weeping for Tammuz, right? So his name means sprout of life. That's what his name means. And he was a very well-learned being, extraterrestrial, yeah? And he then, by way of Nusku, Gabriel, had intercourse with Mary and produced a chimera. What I mean by a chimera? A chimera is when 3 cells or sperms by way of Joseph, Nusku, and Tammuz was used to produce Yeshua. So he was a being that was caught in 2 worlds, the spiritual world or the galactical world. That's where he will say things like, I am from above, you're from below. And if you look into the word above, you go into the Greek, is the word ano. Yeah, and the word ano is a transliteration of the word anu. What does anu mean? Anu means the heavenly one. And where's that coming from? The Sumerian culture. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, so these extraterrestrials were coming back and forth at different periods of time. And the Israelites were their seed that they will incarnate or come to teach at certain points. That because the Israelites had so mixed in with the Greeks and the Romans and the European or the Caucasian race, they didn't want their seed to be mixed in. So they had to send somebody. And who they sent was Nusku to perform the act to produce a child who they will call Emmanuel, or they will call Yeshua, the Savior, to their race. That's why he said, think not, I'm not sent to everyone, I'm being sent to my own. But my own receive me not. See what I'm saying? And then everyone interpreted it as, oh, because he wasn't received, he came for the whole world. Yeah, and that's not what he was saying. Okay? So from that birth came forth Yeshua, and Yeshua then was able to, but Tammuz is basically Yeshua incarnated, or the cells of his DNA was used for the making of Yeshua. Does that make sense? Okay. I hope I haven't lost anybody, because if I have, please let me elaborate or explain. Yes, my brother. I've lost you. Good, I'm glad. No, I don't want to lose you. I don't want you walking out and saying, that guy, what the heck was he talking about?
It's literally just that part there he's saying.
Okay.
Right.
Now, which part? Go on say.
Literally the little, like you went on about Jesus. She said, you know, fragments of DNA.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead. There's the mic. Just don't speak in the mic, because we are recording this, so I want people to hear it.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't understand the same time. So fragments of someone giving to Jesus.
So yeah, I explain.
Yeah.
So do you understand how cryogenics works at all, or in vitro fertilization? No.
No.
Okay. Basically, they will take a sperm of a male, all right, and they'll freeze that sperm, put it into encapsulate it, all right, into like a syringe or something. They will then inject it into the male, right, into his balls, his balls or whatever. You know, I'm going to use a loose word, into his scrotum. Yeah,
they inject
the sperm into the scrotum, yeah, of the male, right? Are you following so far? Yeah. Once it's injected into the scrotum of the male, into his testes, that act was then performed by a being known as Nusku. In the Bible, they call him Gabriel. You familiar with the story? You know, in nursery, they used to make that whole nativity play. Yeah. And the angel said, "You shall be with a child." Yeah? Yeah? Okay, were you Joseph? Huh? Were you Joseph? I just said angel. Okay, you want the donkey or anything? Eh? Nah. Okay. Right, so that's what took place. Gabriel came as they call it in the Quran, a well-made man. And then they explain in the Quran that he overshadowed her. It's just a nice way of saying he had sex with her. Okay? We're adults here. So he had intercourse with Mary by way of this cryogenics. You following so far? Yeah? And then he ejaculated into Mary and she conceived of what they call the Holy Ghost. Okay, right. So this is excerpt from the birth of Jesus. And it goes into a little bit deeper. So verse 38 from Mawat Haya Hamat Tat Wu Mokhradu Afef Jesus Pa Karas. That's death, life, wife, and children of Jesus the Christ. Right, verse 38 goes. 37, okay. My beloved, let me reveal to you a long lost Hakkad. Most needed in these, the final Zamut days, as we set the record straight. So let my Madat words be known on this. So this excerpt from the birth of Jesus. It was 3 a.m., August the 16th, 5 BC, when a Gabar El awoke Mary, that Hannah, that's Mary's daughter of Hannah, Sawaltat, daughter of Aaron and Jochebed. This Mary awoke to see 3 illuminated extraterrestrials, Musyad Muthalu, from the Masa'a Sabat Nadam Orion star system, standing before her. If you read the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 14. She was very frightened. Yet one entered in onto her space and touched her on her forehead, and the Khawaf fear subsided. He was Gabrael, son of Rasiel, and mother Zamael. Okay, you can find these people mentioned in the holy tablets, these names as well. So, Matthew 1:18. Now the birth of Jesus Christ was on this wise. Should I keep carrying reading? Or there's more, yeah? Okay. He said, "Fear not, Mary, we've come down to give you something, a divine gift. Lay back down." And he put a thin veil, the backed gold, over her khatat body and Wajaj's face, that she see not. He said, "You, Mary, will give birth in 9 months to a Ayash Kharad, male child, a Sawal, son." She said, "How can this be? I've never had sexual intercourse with a male at only 12 years of age." A young Fatetat girl by laws of Mubaru Hebrews. Gabriel said, "That's no problem for us to make happen. Lay back down." And she did, and he asked of her. Lay back down, and put his left Yadad hand over her Raham womb, and a bright illumination as an orb entered her womb, the Tahir, pure soul. And she fell back into a deep Nawam sleep, that Lalut night, forgetting all that had happened. When she awoke, it was like a dream to her. And that same night, August 16, 5 BC, at 3:30 a.m., the same 3 Musyad Mutatalu extraterrestrials went down the hill atop of where she lived with her Muldatat mother and Muldad father. They were on the road down to the Mukhlan house of Joseph, Bar Heli, and his mother, Judith. Matthew chapter 1:16, Mark 6:3. Joseph was the father of Mukhradu children by his Hamatat wife Hausa, who had died in childbearing because she was ill at a time with a Marad's disease, malaria. She had sons and a daughter, James, Joseph, Simeon, and Judas, and her daughter Mary. Joseph was a carpenter, well known by all for his skill. He lived at the bottom of the hill in front of the small town's major well of clean water from which most came to draw each day. So the three Mushyad Mutatalu extraterrestrials entered into into Joseph's house at 3:30 a.m. while all was fast asleep. In a deep sleep in his private chamber, they did not wake him. One stood over him and gently took hold of his scrotum with his right hand, and a bright spark of illumination entered his testicles. A pure spirit was placed in his spermatozoon, and they did not wake him, and they departed his house. And their kabad craft flew off to return to Masa'a, Orion, or the Ma'at heavens the very next morning. As each morning, except for the Shabbat, Mary came down a hill on which her home was in order to collect gourds of fresh, clean Maya water from the well in front of the house of Joseph and his children. And each morning she would, in respect, respond to his greetings with a Bassam smile, for she was yet 12 years of age and not yet veiled, for she had not had her ritual of womanhood, but bat mitzvah, which was to be the next year at age 13. So she was an alma, young girl. Yet this morning was unlike all the others. For this morning, to the ayantui eyes of Joseph, a lonely man, she grew, and her youthfulness and nafar beauty was now illuminated to him for the very first time, and his manhood was aroused with attraction. Yeah, I think I'm going to learn it because it's quite long, isn't it? But it goes into the DNA and all of that in here. The book to get, if you want to really, 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 really know the true story, is this book here. Death, Life, Wife, and Children of Jesus Christ, the Master Secrets. Okay? We have many Master Secrets. That one is the birth of Earth and the Matrix, and the list goes on. Okay? This is why he's called the Master, because many people think they know, but when he breaks this science down, trust me, you're going to hear it sooner or later on the news or somewhere. That's how it happens. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. When he said that Pluto was going to be excommunicated as a planet. This was before scientists actually said that Pluto was no longer a planet. It was just a wandering star or wandering rock or whatever the case may be. Yeah, that's one of the things that he said. That's a prediction. The other one was the HAR1 gene. He predicted the HAR1 gene, and it's mentioned in the book, My Brother Extraterrestrial. I did my research on those two things, and he always said, don't believe me, check it out. So that's what I did. I checked it out, and in there, HAR1 gene was mentioned by the master teacher, and then years later, they then talked about the HAR1 gene. Okay? So this is the type of being we're dealing with. He's not playing when he says these things. Here's my brother.
What is the HAR1?
HAR1 gene is basically a gene on one of the chromosomes. I believe it's the 20th chromosome, right? And it's known as the human accelerated region, dealing with your brain, okay, and other aspects of your ability to adapt to any environment. Okay, there's another one called the DUF gene as well, duff brain, and that's dealing with your intelligence. Okay, so these things, this is what the master's been breaking down in the books. Okay, right. Are there any questions or not? I can see quite a few coming up on here, but yeah, go ahead, bro.
See, Mary giving birth to Jesus.
Yes, just yep.
You see, Mary giving birth to Jesus at 13.
Yeah.
Is that not?
Okay, I knew we were going to go on there. Okay, what you have to realize, right, in Hebraic teachings, a girl is considered a woman at the age of 13. We're living by Christian and moral concepts in the West. Yeah, so for them, they say that a child or a woman is at the age of 18 but that ties into their numbers. Because when you look at 666, it's dealing with their numbers. You see what I'm saying? 666, the child 18. So in the Hebraic culture, not every culture is the same. A woman, a girl really, when she starts to menstruate, is actually a woman. The moment she's able to menstruate. Yeah? Now, in this culture, it will be considered heinous crime, you see what I'm saying, if somebody was to have sex with a child, because she'd be considered a child, but not in other cultures.
But even in other cultures, you still look young.
Yeah, I hear you, but it's not about how young she looks, it's about whether her body's ready. You see what I'm saying? As natural nature says when you're ready. Like when a male has a nocturnal emission, that means he can potentially have a child. You see what I'm saying? At the age of 13. So Joseph was quite old. He was mature. He had already had children. That's what he was saying in the thing. He already had children. It's just that it was a plan by these extraterrestrials because they wanted to bring a particular seed onto the planet. And Joseph was from the lineage of Judah, and Mary was from the lineage of the Levites. And it was always through the woman's seed that they were able to intercept onto this planet. You see what I'm saying? They always use the woman's seed. So Mary being from the Levitical seed, the Levites were like the chosen ones to perform all the rituals and the blood worshipping and all those things to this character called God in the Bible. If you read the Levitical book, you see that God always came to the Levites and told them what to do. You see what I'm saying? Cut a goat, sprinkle his blood onto the altar, and I will come and I will consume it. Anyone who was not a Levitical priest and did that, what did God do to them? He burnt them with fire, or he struck them down. You see what I'm saying?
So you got struck out, no.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that there's a particular lineage that these extraterrestrials move through. They don't just choose any and anybody. They've chosen a specific seed on the planet to pass their generations and the DNA through. Do you understand? Yeah. And so Mary and Joseph was that seed. So that's you have to look at it with a mind's eye of that. It was a different culture. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. You know, when you go to certain cultures in Saudi Arabia or Arabia, men hug and kiss, like they kiss each other on the cheek, etc.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. You go to the Sun's people, they walk around bare-breasted. No, nothing to them. You know what I mean? They walk around naked. So moral principles of Europeans and their stigma of certain things is why we are caught up in, it's wrong. Do you see what I'm saying? But to other cultures, it's not. It's the way they live. And we just have to respect that and acknowledge it for what it is. Yeah? You have a question, yeah?
Yeah, I was going to say, you said these extraterrestrials, they move through a certain lineage.
Yeah.
Does that have something to do, the 13 bloodlines? That have something to do with that?
13 bloodlines in the sense of the Israelite bloodline, or
like the people at top that
run the world. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's precisely correct. They move through certain bloodlines. So you have your Bilderbergers, the Rockefellers, all the way down to the president, etc. That's right. They move through certain bloodlines. So I was teaching a class last week on the bloodlines and what extraterrestrials use, who to do their bidding for them on this planet. Yeah. So they won't come to the average person and say, well, work for me. They'll go through the bloodline. So for instance, you have the Yorks and the Lancasters, and then you also have the Irish, and you also have certain other, species, as it were, or people or cultures that they extraterrestrial will come through. So for us, is our ancestors Panataru. You see what I'm saying? They work through Panabab Yanun to teach us who we are. Yeah? And in our lineage, we have all the way back. You're sitting here right now. Okay, this is the reality. You're sitting right here right now because someone in your DNA, yeah? Because your DNA has memory. It doesn't forget. Everything that you're sitting in here now, you're recording in your DNA, and it's encoded and locked away. You see what I'm saying? Someday down the line, what you've learned today, if you ever have children, they're gonna also have that in their DNA.
They'll just know it.
They'll just know it because they won't know it. It'll be, what's the word? Dormant. It'll be dormant. The way to activate the DNA is the practice of it. You see what I'm saying? So if I taught you now, fasting is good for your body and that it regenerates cells and rejuvenates your brain and it grows new neurons. You'll say, oh, really? That sounds right reasoning. That makes sense. Okay, let me start fasting now. So now what you're doing, you're activating a DNA. You see what I'm saying? You're having a DNA genetic explosion going on. You're now encoding that in your very being.
Isn't that just like building a habit?
A habit is part of your DNA because it's encoded.
When you lose a habit, you lose some DNA.
No, it becomes dormant. You know what dormant means? Yeah. So it just lies there. Now, the way to actually activate it, you see, we talk about DNA and we talk about genes, but there's a science called epigenetics. Yeah, you heard about it, yeah? So on the epigenetics, you have something called there's satellite DNA, okay, and there's another one, I forgot the name, but yeah, that's it. No, jumping. You got jumping DNA, you got satellite DNA. Jumping DNA, say that, like I said, you've learned a new language, let's just say, right? What's taking place in your DNA now is that it will write a code by way of what the brother mentioned, the jump DNA, which they don't know what it's for, because only 2 to 3% of your DNA actually codes for protein, which your body needs to survive. But the rest of it, they call junk. That's because that junk DNA is in the form of certain things like satellite DNA, jumping DNA, and other introns, and all of these other names that they give them. And what they do is they will jump to a particular part of the DNA chromosome, and then they will rewrite the GTCAC in a particular sequence. And then now you're activated. Or that portion of you is activated now. So you start to remember your past, for instance, and how great you were.
Past life?
Not the past life, more like things like I was talking about your intuition, how you felt about the ancestors, like who built the pyramids? You keep asking these questions. So who built the pyramids? Who was Adam and Eve? Do you know what I'm saying? How did the black man come about? How did all the different races come about? These are questions that are in you, dormant. Do you see what I'm saying? But then once it's confirmed, it's now activated. You're now aware. You understand? Yeah, and that awareness now, it means now, just like a computer, when you open up the resource of the computer, the information, what do you do once you get information and you store it, don't you? You save it in a drive, right? That's basically your mental drive. You've now saved it in your mental drive, and now you're able to access it at random. That's what they call RAM, random access memory. You see what I'm saying? So now you're able to access that information, and you're able now to convey that information. But because now it's stored in your hard drive, your mental, and in your DNA, your children, should you have any, not even just your children, while you're learning now, your ancestors or relatives who are either in the spiritual realm, who didn't know this information, are also learning from you. That's how deep it is.
Oh, it's a hard concept to get my head around because
obviously. No, let me explain to you.
It's always been.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Almost like your favorite song, almost even.
Okay.
Boom, you hear it the first 10 times, it's cool.
That's right.
But now you've gone and you understand a certain word or phrase, and you have a background.
Right.
So the next time you listen to the song, that has been activated.
Exactly.
It's
making more sense. Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Now go ahead. No, seriously, this is all about reasoning.
No, I understand that. Yeah. But I would just go and quit. I don't know how DNA. I know you've explained it.
No. Okay. Let me give you another scenario. Okay. How did you learn how to crawl?
assuming I just watched something. Well, I never called actually.
Oh, you just walked?
Yeah.
Well, that's a blessing because some children is. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you know?
I watched my sister in it. That's
okay, yeah. So you watch somebody, but it's encoded. What you did is you watched it, and because it was already encoded in you, it activated that portion of your memory. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And then you acted on it. It happens so fast because as a child, between the ages of 0 to 4, you're literally absorbing everything. Your mouth is an absorbing piece. That's why children put things in their mouth, because they're not actually wanting to eat it. What they're doing is their tongue is tasting it, and the brain is processing what it is. You see what I'm saying? And then it's recording it in the memory. Oh, this is what it is. This is what it is. So that's why children put everything in their mouth. Yeah. So all of these things is to say that within your makeup, your genome, the 24,000 genome that you have, which I'm going to read, it explains that you have certain memories, not just now memories, you have thousands of years ago memories, because you have your ancestors that are residing in you. Does that make sense? Yeah? And they're the ones that sometimes even guide you, but we misinterpret that as religion as, oh, God help me. But it's really your ancestors who are guiding you and protecting you.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that.
Okay. Right. Hoping that makes sense. I'm glad that makes sense. I don't want to walk out here. Right. So let me just jump to Clubhouse, if there's anything on Clubhouse. Are there any questions on Clubhouse at all? The Christian religion plagiarized the family from Egypt, right? All the information has been given to build our home, establish. Okay, no questions on there. Okay, so Tehillah read. So Jesus did not represent the God of the Old Testament who was demanding all the sacrifices. I asked because the God Jesus talked about sound different and loving compared to Old Testament God who sent Israelites to go and kill your neighbors. Right, okay. Okay, that's been answered. Okay, that's been answered by second. Tell second ready to answer that. Right, okay, back to it, yes. Yeah, go ahead, yeah. This is a question answer class. Go ahead.
So I want to ask, who was the God that was demanding the people to do blood sacrifices?
Okay. And the reason why you've got the word God in your Bible, and it just makes it like it's a singular. But when we take it back, if you've been to a few of the classes, the God of the Bible, we teach that are the Elohim. You understand? Yeah, so it's not just a singular, it's a plural. And sometimes these Elohim interchange in character or interchange in responsibilities. So sometimes you have Yah, and sometimes you have Way. Sometimes you have Baal, or sometimes you have Yahweh, or sometimes you have Adonai. You see what I'm saying? Different titles, but they keep saying Lord God, etc. So the confusion lies in the translation. So when you go back into the translation, these Elohim, some of them were agreeable, and some of them were disagreeable. That's the word Yahweh. Yah means agreeable, and Way means disagreeable. You see? And some of them also ate flesh, and some of them didn't. So going back to who Yahweh was, or Jehovah was, that was Enki. Enki would have been the Jehovah. Baal would have been Enlil. And Enlil was not in favor of the Adamites. You with me? So he was into blood sacrifice by way of his son, Nana. Yeah, Nana was the son of Enlil, and he was into the blood sacrifices. His actual name means sacrifice. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So he was the father of Cain. So when you talk about, and it says Eve had a child, and it says, the Lord has given me a child. and I'll call him Cain. That word there where it says the Lord has given me, that was Nana. Nana had sex with Eve or the cable and birthed the child Cain. Right? You understand? Yeah, and his brother Abel, who he then killed. Yeah. So these extraterrestrials, some of them are agreeable, some of them eat flesh, and some of them took a particular lineage and taught them, and that was the Levite priests. So Baal was the one, or Enlil was the one that was teaching the Levitical priests what to do and how to put, cut blood, certain animals and sprinkle them, etc., by way of his son Nana. Okay? Yeah, so that's how it was taking place. You right? No, I know you haven't got a question. I'm just you're right.
Oh yeah, no, right. Yeah. Yeah, I thought Enlil was Yahweh.
No, Enlil, Ba. Yeah. Sorry, just bear with me. There you go. Right. So in Kabir Kadam, so let's just read this. Elijah, yeah. Right. So in this book here, Kabir Kadam, Bigfoot, yeah? Right. So I'll read from verse 48. Right. That was up. Right. So from verse 48 of Kabir Kadam, the Anunnaki or Anakim, also called in the Bible Elohim, and in Quran 1815 Alihat, deities or gods, which is a very bad translation of the words or names. As their one tongue and language became many, they called Semitic, from Sham, or Sham Yaza, Samael, or Hebrews from Eber, crossover, Genesis 10:21 to 25. From the mothercraft, Nibiru, Nib Ibiru. So the name Eber is actually coming from a craft, the name of a craft, okay, which is called Nibiru. That's where Hebrew comes from when you look into the root words, okay? Verse 50, the new tonguage or dialects gave rise to new titles. So you hear El Shaddai, Ash Shaddai, Yahweh, Rab, Adonai, Baal, or Allah. The list goes on and on. Each claim they have the only one true God, the greatest God, greater than who, if there is only one. When in fact they fight over two brothers, Enki and Enlil, conflict between the gods and the sons of Anu. El was at first only Enlil or Jah, yeah? Psalms 868 verse 4, was at first only Enki, right? So El was Enlil and Jah was Enki, all right? You see who worshipped who by the names of their men, prophets or priests in the Bible. However, Enki has also been an El. You see what I'm saying? The interchanging. As in Psalms 82 verse 1, where he's speaking as one of the Elohim about man to El, who would be his father, An or Anu, at this point. Psalms 82:1. God, Elohim, Hebrew Strong's number 430, standeth in the congregation of the mighty. El, Hebrew Strong's number 410, he judgeth among the gods. Elohim, Hebrew Strong's number 430. Right, now the breakdown of the names. So you have Enlil, the ones that were on his side or favoring him would have been Daniel, Ezekiel, Samuel, Ishmael, Gabriel, Jehaziel. So anytime you're hearing L at the end of these priests and prophets, is that they were in lineage with Enlil. When you hear the word Elijah, is Isaiah, Nehemiah, Shemaiah, etc., Yeshua, that was Enki's seed. Do you understand? Yeah, so like I said, they work through certain blood lineage. Okay? I think that will be it. Right, so and it goes here, verse 54. To control their creation, they made them competitors, and this plays out in all forms of competitions, wars, games of chance, and challenges. Who is right is the same as who wins. Pa Kamau, the Pleiadians, also gave their creation the new beast man El equals Israel equals Israelites. Yeah, so they create a new being, a beast man, all right, and called them the new Israelites, or of Enlil seed. And then Jah equals Judah, or the Judahites of Enki seed, Adamites, 6,000 years ago, to rule or have dominion over the planet Earth. Genesis 1:26 to verse 27, from 4000 BC to 2000 AD. Yet the son of the Anunnaki, or sons of Elohim, the ones under Enlil, Lord of the sky, called the Ikiki, became Naphalu, or Munfalu, fallen ones, for raping the daughters of Adam's son, Seth's son, Enos. While you have the prophet Ezekiel, speaking of UFO, Ezekiel 10:122, etc. He was of Enlil. You see, his throne is used. So when you read in the book of Ezekiel now, you know who the throne, the chariot was referring to. It's talking about Enlil when he was coming back and forth, coming to that seat. Yeah? All right. Any questions on that or anything else? Yeah,
was Enki's son, Marduk, called Amin-Ra, the god that Christians worship? And
first question, say that again. Yeah. Was Enki's son?
Yeah, Marduk.
Marduk. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Was he called Amin-Ra, the god that the Christians worship?
Okay. Right. Marduk would be the equivalent. Would be an equivalent to Amun-Ra. Yeah, it's like you got Pele and you got Ronaldo. They're not the same people, but equivalent in the way they and abilities of what they do. You see what I'm saying? They could be an equivalent, but they're not the same beings. One predates the other. Yeah, so that's what it's referring to when it says that. Okay.
Yeah. So did Marduk join forces with Enlil?
Did Marduk join forces with Enlil? Marduk would have been your son of righteousness, or known as Michael. He never joined forces with Enlil. He was an advocate of, actually, he never joined forces with Enlil or Enki. He was Anu. He was all about Anu. That's why he was known as the warring angel. You see what I'm saying? Because he didn't take sides. He was basically in lineage with Anu. Anu give him instructions, he would act them out. He doesn't care whether you follow. It didn't work like that. The hierarchy and allegiancy, okay, didn't work like that with the Anunnaki. It's about who you're aligned to and your allegiance to. And he was allegiance with his grandfather, because his grandfather was the one that blessed him with a particular weapons, etc. He was Anu would have been his grandfather. Yeah,
and Enki was his father.
That's right. Yeah. Keep coming. If you want a question, seriously, that's what we're here to do. Clear up all the misinformation.
Yeah, and because I was told that Enlil got his son called Marduk as well.
I'm not sure. Let's go into the
Enki's son or Enlil's son.
Right. I see.
Well, they did join forces together to
They have at certain time. That's what I'm saying. It all depends, and because the names did interchange, it's very hard for you to know who's who. But actually, is the Adamite and the biblical Quranic race upstairs? Yeah, because that goes into it. That's a book for you to get, because in there it breaks down the parentage, the mother, father, who's who. But I think it's also in part of course. Let me just try and find it. Here somewhere. The one. Yeah, that's the one. Right, so this is entitled The Master Secret, Anunnaki and the Biblical and Quranic Race. Okay? Just see if I can find. Yeah, it's more. I mean, it is in other books, but this gives you a really, it gives you like the whole chart. Yeah. So you have Anu, Most High. Sorry, Mike. You have Anu, Most High, that can be found in Genesis 14, 17 to 22, when it talks about El Elyon or Elyon El, when Melchizedek introduces Abraham to El Elyon. Then you have Yahweh, Genesis 4:26. So now you know who Yahweh is, Enki. And Baal or Gad, and that's Joshua 11:7. Then from that you have Damkina and Enki, and then another name for him was Ea or Nudimud. And then you have Enlil and Ninlil, and his other name was Nun Imnir. So between them, they gave birth to Iskor and Nana, okay, of Urim or that's where Abraham came from, the Ur of Chaldees. And then also Haran. So yeah, Chaldees was Persia and Haran was Turkey. So then from there you have Adam, Titi, Seth, Azaru, and on and on. These are their true names. Okay? Okay, I see you. No. Go on. Like I said, I don't want you to walk out of here with any confusion. So go, let's clear this up if you're confused.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was said in one of the classes that as the Nagara race, we come from the Anunnaki, right?
No.
Or that not directly, but we have sometimes
that's right. Let me stop right there and then let me build on that, and then you can ask your question. So the Anunnaki have come to this planet, right? They split up into families. They built cities in Mesopotamia and other parts of the Mesopotamian area. They built cities, right? Some of them defected. Enki, being one of them, was a being that was very hypersexualized. Let's just put it that way, okay? And he went into Africa and he took a wife and birthed, who did he birth? It wasn't murder, was it? Who did he birth? Ningishzida, yeah? This would be in Tahuti, yeah? So that's how we got the Anunnaki gene into the blood of the Africans, by way of that. So Enki then became loyal to the Sans people and to the Africans because of that. And from that birth, also birthed Nabu, who also took onto that African culture and was in allegiance with the African culture. So that then tied into the Natharu. You see what I'm saying? Because now it was all about allegiance. Yeah, and what wu-sabat brought to them. For them, they knew that the beings that were the guardians of the universe were the Natharu. Carry on.
Is it true that at some point they weren't allowed in Egypt?
The Anunnaki?
Yeah. Because
no, they were coming back and forth to Egypt many times. it got to a point where they had to put up a barrier, yeah, and close off the gates because the beings that Enki was attracting were of disagreeable nature, and they were bringing negative forces and energy to the planet. So they created a barrier, and that became the red zone, Zupu, and Nupu became the green zone. Do you see what I'm saying? Because what was taking place, if you refer to existence, how and why, it explains that when they created this barrier, this net-like energy web, the beings that were coming here, they were bringing negative energy that was infecting the Africans and also infecting the planet. So to separate them, keep them separated, they created a barrier. But prior to then, they were going back and forth as normal. And then what they did was they created gate passes to allow certain extraterrestrials to come here. But some of them were using fake ID, like, you know, the good old Uber drivers might do use fake ID. So these fake IDs was being used and they were passing themselves off. And that's how they started passing themselves as gods to the Africans and also to the other Europeans that were here, you know? So this was what was taking place. But prior to the red zone being put there, they were going back over. Enki was coming, Anunnaki were interacting with ancient Egyptians, is basically what I'm saying, yeah.
And is it correct that the Moses teacher is Murdoch reincarnated?
Right, okay.
And what are his ties?
Parna Babylon has multiple entities that, and also beings that are got genetic connection with him. Do you understand? So Ningishida being of the Enki, and then you have Yanun, which will be in the Riskian, yeah, and then you also have his father, who's also an earth being, and you also have one more, isn't it? Is it Murdoch is one, isn't it? Sure, Murdoch is one, yeah. So Zahutu, yes, there you go, Tahuti, that's the one. So you have Zahutwi, Ningishida, and Yanun. Those are the three triads that are all linked to him genetically and etherically. Does that make sense? What's taking place is this. You see the lifetimes that we've had that the Masters explained that we've had 9,000 or more, 24,000 year lifetimes. Every time you experience this life, you create a memory and also a spiritual strength, okay, that is recorded, which becomes a part of you. So these particular beings have had many, many memories, many, many experiences that have become one being. Does that make sense? Because what the Master ultimately says that when you leave this realm and you transition, you're going to meet your other half in another plane of existence, and you're going to merge as one. Then again, when you master that, you're going to merge into another portion of your being, and you're going to merge into that. So this is what's happened with Ningishida, Murdoch, etc. They become one being, still separate but one being. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. If it's all going over your head, please. Yeah, because essentially there's multiple parts of you. They showed it in Ant-Man. Don't know if anyone want Ant-Man, the last one, where there was the black guy who played the villain. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then at the end, it shows him as there's multiple dimensions of him. There's like loads and loads of him. Because in every dimension, there's a you.
So he wasn't actually dead like this time.
Yeah, exactly. There was just another portion of him that had like the transition. But there's multiple yous. Yeah, you have many different dimensional yous. And what the Master is trying to explain to us that's why you're a supreme being. Because there's multiple yous that you can connect with. And then from those experiences, you're able to tap into the mental reservoir and bring them forth and be able to teach like how he's been able to teach. Because those beings who he's linked to are his multiple experiences, as it were. Do you see what I'm saying? Which is all linked into the mental reservoir. Yeah? Okay. Any other questions?
Have a few people on the stage on Clubhouse.
All right, let me just close these books up. Okay. Right, and just close these books so that I'm just kind of covering everything. Bear with me while oh well, instead of time. Time's blown. Okay. Right, so Clubhouse, what is it like to come on stage? People got their hands to come on stage or in the chat?
No, we have Matt, Sokit, and Southampton all on stage. I'm not sure if they wanted to contribute or ask
okay. Okay. It's over to you, Zamal Tatwi or Zamal Tatu. If you have any questions, please fire away. Selket? Rahuba? Rahuba.
I have a question. What do you think is this now obsession with the physical sun, and how does that relate to wu-sabat?
What is the obsession with the physical sun?
With organizations like NOAA watching the sun and its emissions, like the I guess the radiation and that type of thing, the levels.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, every 12 years, the sun has what's called a solar mass corona ejection. What essentially that means is that you have on the sun certain energies that the biorhythm of the sun will give off a particular strong radiational field, okay, into the atmosphere. And the Earth has potentially, if it doesn't have any protection, can like affect electrical signals, destroy satellites, also affect human beings, their mental state as well. So these coronal mass ejections that they've been watching, it happens every 12 years. Okay, so that's the purity of them. Like the Earth also goes through that same kind of cycle every, I think, was how many years? I think every 8 years, I believe. I'm not too sure, but there was, for instance, you know, the Philadelphia experiment. The Earth went through a biorhythm shift. It's every 10 years, yeah?
Used to be every 10.
Every 10. Yeah, yeah. So around about that time, the Earth went through a biorhythm shift, and that affected the Philadelphia experiment. It affected the people on there because of the high energy that the actual Earth or the sun can give off. So these coronal mass ejections, as I was saying, is that when that field of energy penetrates through the ionosphere and the stratosphere and the mesosphere, all these different spheres that are around the planet, these radiations, it can affect a certain species that's on the planet. Not every species is affected, because what we teach is that because we're children of the sun and we are melanated beings, there's certain radio frequencies and electromagnetic frequencies and sound waves and things like that, which when we absorb it and our brain absorbs it, our brain can actually transduce it, which means it has the ability to convert it into other energy forms in our body, yeah, as messages or as a form of healing. So for us as Nagaru, only obviously if you're practicing the necessary things required, which is like I mentioned earlier, you're eating right, you're meditating, you're chanting, you're communicating with your ancestors. These are ways of being able to then absorb certain energies and certain frequencies into your body. Like the A note is what the masters explain, is that when you're chanting on the A note or you're humming the A note, that acts, your body acts as a capacitor. Okay, what that means is that when it's generating a minute electricity in your cells, your body stores that electricity and has the ability to convert. I see you, my brother. Yeah, it has the ability to convert that electricity into energy for your benefit. So these are certain things that the sun can actually give off. But for the Mukasu or other people who haven't raised themselves because of this dimensional shift, they're going to get affected. So sometimes people might get headaches, you know, some people might get to the point where they go crazy and end up hurting or killing someone, because the sun has an ability to do that, because the frequency and your brainwave frequency has to match. It's called resonance. If you're not on that level of that frequency, it can affect you adversely. So this is why we've been advocating. The master teacher is not just teaching this for you to sound heavy or for us to sound heavy and that we've got lots of knowledge and we can, you know, just teach, you know, by standing here, or, you know, even if we've learned the information. It's about application of the information, which will allow you to be able to make a dimensional shift. Because as the earth goes through this dimensional shift and goes through this paradigm of change, you also have to evolve with it and change with it. Otherwise, what the earth is going to do is going to see you as a parasite or a virus. And if you haven't made that shift, it will seek to destroy you or remove you off the planet. If you watch the book, the movie, The Matrix, there's something very poignant that what's his name? That entity who played trying to chase Neo. What's his name? Can't remember his name. Mr. Smith. Yeah, Mr. Smith says something. He said something very poignant to Neo. He said, "You are like parasites." Yeah. And what is a parasite or an infection to a computer? Yeah, it's something that it has to eradicate. So look at Earth as we have become a parasite and an infestation to Mother Earth. So for us to not become a target to be removed off the planet, we have to raise our vibrational density and our vibrational frequency. And that's what the master teacher is teaching us to do. Okay? So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
One more thing I wanted to mention was that the Koreans have a fake sun that they have been working on. And basically,
yeah, I remember reading something like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I wonder why they have done that.
Do you know what?
It just seems really dangerous.
These are, as it says in let me read something to you from I'm conscious of the time because I didn't even realize our time has flown like this. Let me read something to you from Birth of Earth and the Matrix. I think it's in here. Right. Now, when we refer to the Koreans, they are a sub-race of the Asians, right? Or what we refer to as the Mangalu. But they're also a mixture of mankind, which is the Mukasu. So there's certain things that the Mukasu and the mental defects has got them doing. So one of them is that they creating, I'll read from verse 47 of the book known as, again, The Master Secret, The Birth of Earth in the Matrix. And it goes like this in verse 48. Sorry, verse 47. The Kakasu, Caucasoid race, and their helpers of sub-races grafted taba'al natural food into mankind's synthetic bara'ah foods, sharab'at drinks, smokes, and jasad flesh. And they have many Nagaru, Negroes, eating, drinking, smoking, and Khayue breathing their fake Tem Taba'al unnatural chemicals. Zayef, fake edible food targeted for you to eat. So call it fast food or processed food or genetically modified organisms, but are designed to remove the natural substances created in each of you to protect your immune systems. What I'm alluding to is that they create fake things, okay, unnatural things. So the sub-races of the Mukasu or the Mangalu, the Asian race, because they're mixed in with Mukasu or Caucasoids, this is why they're creating all these fake things and fake foods and etc. Yeah, because that's what they do. They're just unnatural to nature. Does that make sense?
Oh, Tuba, that's a perfect explanation. Thank you, Samal.
You're welcome. Okay, well, can I see if there's any questions online? Okay, the Matrix movie showed all the various incarnations of Neo. It showed that when he connected or activated, he accessed all those. Precisely. Yeah, precisely. Successful safe Zion. Yeah, we'll touch on Zion. Zion is actually one of the names of Nana. If you didn't know, Zamalta or Regina or Regina, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. But we'll go into that Nana story another day. Right. We're coming up to the end. Let's see if there's any more questions. Are there any last burning questions before I yes, my sister.
So we understand that the bedroom will come at some point and collect the 144,000, right?
Okay.
And
pause there. Right. Nibiru is already here. Nibiru is outside of the what's it called? The asteroid belt. Okay, it doesn't come close to Earth because the size of Nibiru and the magnitude of it, the electromagnetic pull. Well, actually, I think you might pretend the mic. Is it the mic still on, or is it just okay? Yeah. It will destroy portions of this planet and affect the whole solar system. So Nibiru normally stays outside of this asteroid belt. Now, on Nibiru, okay, this is where your revelations comes in now, because you're talking about the crystal city and all of this kind of stuff. There's two things happening here. It's like a two-tier level. The being that's coming, all vested in white with blood, is Nana. Yeah, he's made human beings, not he himself, but he's used his minions, okay, to make human beings think that is the rapture of the 144,000. But that's already happened in Nome, Alaska, when they've already taken 144,000 for food. So Nana is not here to, what's it called, reap the harvest in the sense of take them and teach them. That revelation story, like I said, is a two-tier thing. Now, the 144,000 that you're referring to for us as Nagaru, that's what you allude here, coming to, yeah, is that it's talking about the 104,000 beings who have the experience and the information, you with me, that will then be taken and taught, or be taken off this planet while the mess happens on this planet. So when you add up the numbers, it equals 9. 144, yeah, thousand is actually the number 9. The number 9 is referring to the Nagaru race, who will be the caretakers of this planet. And then the resurrection for us is the mental resurrection. That's the reason why we have the tweet. Yeah, so it's a mental resurrection of us. And then eventually, certain beings who have been raised to a certain level will be taken and taught by the master teacher and brought back. So there's two things happening here. There's the rapture of the hybrids on the planet and the Mukasu. And then there's also us who are being raised to be taken for X amount of what if it was 1,000 years or one day, okay, to be taught. So there's two things happening. In the Christian story, they believe it's going to happen like going to be taught and the angels are going to come, etc. That's Nana coming to kill and slaughter.
So when we talk about our story and when you say taken,
yeah,
do you mean just
we'll
on this plane or taken away from
away through? That's the reason why the master's explaining that we have to, when you read what book does he break it down in? There's several books, but he explains that there's a vortex. There are vortexes around the planet. So the time has to be right. The tones have to be right. The right, what referred to as the Mukshnas Tafu, or the, what are they called? What's the name of them? The hermaphrodites, that's it. The hermaphrodites and the hermaphrodites. It's in the book Dimensional Shift. Actually, that's the book. In there, he explains that these hermaphrodites and the hermaphrodites have to be in the right sequence. Is that in the Bridge of Salvation? Oh, okay. We'll touch that then before because obviously it's now court. So when all those things are taken place and the master is released, because that's one of the reasons why we're fighting for the master's release is because there's certain things that have to be put into place. And then once those people are activated, a vortex will open, and the ones that are prepared will raise themselves to a certain frequency, because you can't just go for a vortex. You have to be resonating or vibrating at the right frequency and right vibration to pass through. Do you understand? And then they'll be taken through to up into first the moon, and then from the moon to Orion and Sirius to be taught and recalibrated. And once they're taught and recalibrated, they will come back to this planet.
But weren't we told that they would be taken and never to return again?
No, they'll definitely not. Not to return. There'll be some. Okay, what you're doing two different things. Okay, there's ones where if you have raised yourself to a particular level and you did what you're supposed to do, you see what I'm saying? You won't return. Do you understand? But these ones are being specifically chosen to return to become the caretakers of the planet. So there are going to be those who will leave and not return. And then there's going to be those who are going to return to be the caretakers. And our job as wu-sabat, that's what wu-sabat means. We are the replacement. You see what I'm saying? We replace the misinformation with the right information. And then we are the teachers. We are the ones that are going to be the supreme beings. But then there's going to be ones that are the elite. You see what I'm saying? And that elite will be the one known as the Munkabu, who will be taken, taught for a while, and then return back to be the rulers and caretakers.
And that will be in for 1,000 human years?
It's according to what time period, yeah. It will have seemed like 1,000 years, or it could be one day. So I wouldn't know the exact time because it's like, okay, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Right, no, I'm not going to do anything. Close your eyes. Right. Now, if everybody left this room, okay, and you open your eyes, that'd be like a blink to you. That's let's say 10 minutes past. Yeah? Okay, and that's 10 minutes past and nobody's in this room. You wouldn't know that they've left the room. You see what I'm saying? But it's a bit like one day or 1,000 years. It depends on what free time zone or time range you're looking at. Or even if you fell asleep at 3 o'clock and you woke up 7 o'clock, do you know how long you're sleeping for? You wouldn't know until you check the clock. You see what I'm saying? For you, it could have been just 5 minutes. Yeah, but your friends would be saying, no, you were out cold. You see what I'm saying? For like hours. But to you, it's like, no, it felt like 5 minutes. Yeah, so that's yeah, according to. No, go ahead.
What in that time? What will happen here on
Right, they will be basically removing the entities of the planet. That's why the certain fires and earthquakes and all of these things are happening. It's natural nature happening. Yeah, a cleansing be taking place. That's right. Okay, I think that was the last question. Is there any more questions on? Oh, there's a question. Duswa York has something to say. Okay, let me invite in Rahul Bazamal.
Yeah, I tried to invite.
Oh, okay. Well, you know where he is, so it's hard.
He disappeared.
Yeah, Ghana satellite is not working very well. Okay, Muishar, Sadak, friends, family. Okay, Kufu, join. All right, Rawa, Kufu. We're just about finishing Kufu. Taukum Lahe Yatoy, that's thank you for coming to one of our other question and answer classes. Before you go, please check out United Sabian Worldwide.com.
Excuse me, what time the class start today?
You say that again?
What time classes start today?
Oh, classes started at 7 p.m.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I
Yeah,
got
because
time
we've got an hour ahead, haven't we? And it's still the same for you. That's probably
Okay, okay.
yeah. So yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we've gone to be British Standard Time, or what's it called? Summertime. So we push an hour ahead according to them. So yeah, apologize for that.
Okay, I get that because that's why I told you the last time when you changed time, just let me know so that I would have passed the whole hour in front.
Okay. Right. So just let me finish off Zamalta. So UnitedSavingsWorldwide.com. We're also looking at the moment, we're planning for one of our New Year's festivals called Savior's Day. Okay, that's the master teacher's birthday where we celebrate and plan. I hope I haven't lost anybody or nothing's happened. Right, we're planning for having enjoyment, celebrating his birthday and our new year. Okay, from 9 days before 9 days before the actual Z Festival or Savior's Day. Okay, this is really good. Thanks, I didn't know. It's trying to tell me to cut off, innit? We normally have a fasting. That's the June, from 9 days up to June the 21st. Okay, so anyone who's interested in that, it's all a build up to Savior's Day, where we fast as a collective for 9 days, chanting, etc., calling our ancestors, and that's good. But check out UnitedSavingsWorld.com if you want to become a member and help grow this culture, and also buy books, etc. You can find it all on there. But mostly it's for becoming a membership. Okay, I think I've said everything that needs to be said. And also check out OSM Vision. Push it out there as well, because where is it hitting people all around the world, and it's really making a massive effort. So if you can, you see OSM Vision, support them as well. And they've got, we've got our classes on there, and also, certain snippets. Very good channel. Okay. Wadu Mushia, Wadu family, and nashat.co.uk/connect. Make sure you link into there as well, because you can get all your our radio station as well every Tuesday is from 12 till 3 p.m. every Tuesday. So tune into that as well. Get your friends on there, those who are interested, and to find out more information. All right? All right. Wadu Mosha, and take care.
That is wrong. Okay. I should.
Where did you get your radio station? It's called Galaxy FM. That's it. Sure. Yeah. Galaxy. Are you on our forum? You want to get on our forum? Speak to the sister. Oh. She'll add you to our forum and we'll post it on there. All right. Yeah. All right. But it's Galaxy FM. Yeah.
Another frequency?
That's the it's not frequency, it's a radio station online, web one. So yeah. Just click on the link and then you take you straight there. Yeah. Yeah, Nunaki, the biblical Quranic race, or if you want to know.
I've posted the link for the podcast on the chat and Zoom.
Okay, there's also a podcast as well. There's quite a few platforms that you can check out.
Recording stopped.